Hello learners, I welcome you all to the 57th lecture for the course on International Investment Law and the Environment. So in this lecture again we'll be talking about mediation. In the past two lectures we've been talking about mediation. So in this lecture we'll particularly be looking at, can mediation be a useful tool for resolving investment dispute that involves an environmental measure taken by the host state. If we see, most often when there is an environmental regulatory measure taken by the host state, sometimes the investor will not contest the host state taking the measure, but rather the dispute will revolve around compensation. So basically the investors may agree that the host state has a sovereign power to take a regulatory measure for the protection of environment, but it is just that the problem lies in the quantum of compensation. Remember the question that we raised in the 5th week of the course while talking about the different approaches that an arbitral tribunal may take: sole effects approach, police powers approach, weighing and balancing approach. There was one key question that we kept talking about: why should only the investors bear the cost of an environmental protection measure, right? So that is exactly what the problem is. The investor may not question the sovereign right to enact regulatory measures, but why should they not be paid compensation, or why should they be paid less compensation, right? This is essentially the dispute. So when that is the dispute, can mediation not effectively resolve this? Rather than, compared to an adversarial arbitration, mediation can give you a better answer if the question is only about the quantum of compensation, right? So in case of an adversarial arbitration, then you go into the question of, can the host state take this measure and all of those things. But if it is only about the quantum of compensation, then mediation could be an answer for it. And this is something that we'd also already seen in real life also. Look at the example of Ethel Corporation versus Canada. There was an arbitral award, but ultimately we see a settlement agreement that was signed between the investor and the host state. So this sort of signifies that there can be a settlement agreement even in the context of a post arbitration as well. So there is a possibility that is there that could better resolve the dispute in an amicable way rather than an adversarial form of dispute resolution. But there is also one biggest concern. What is it concern? Transparency. What do I mean by transparency? See, in case of any investment dispute, the public funds are used for fighting the case, right? When host state fights a case, it's using the taxpayers' money. And especially so when the investment dispute involves a regulatory measure. We are talking about a dispute involving a regulatory measure, not talking about, ending termination of a concession agreement and all of that. Whenever a government's regulatory measure is challenged by an investor, then again there's a heightened sense of public interest in that particular matter. Shouldn't the public be interested in knowing where their tax money is being spent? Or in case of an environmental regulatory measure that affects them very severely, shouldn't they be knowing about what is happening in the investment dispute? But generally in case of an investment arbitration, that's a closed case, closed one, and sometimes an arbitral award is published, revealed to the public, and sometimes it is not even revealed to the public. Sometimes procedural orders are also revealed to the public. We've seen there's a move towards increasing transparency in case of investment dispute. ICSID has transparency provision. UNCITRAL had come up with transparency rules, especially in case of investment disputes. All of these had happened. We've discussed about the transparency in much more detail in 10th and 11th week of the course. So that is there. So why shouldn't that be there? Because mediation, the strength of the mediation is confidentiality. So in case when an environmental regulatory measure is challenged and the dispute resolution method is chosen to be mediation, does it not give a perception to the public that the state is paying money to a corporation, a corporation without undermining the environmental protection? That perception could come. We cannot deny that possibility. That perception could come. So therefore, when the disputing parties, especially when there is a environmental regulatory measure is involved in the dispute, then they should draft or bring a very carefully drafted appropriate balance between transparency and confidentiality. This is a must. Only if that is there, then that enhances the legitimacy of the mediation process itself. That will enhance the settlement agreement that it finally come up between the investor and the host state. So if the transparency is ensured, only then this will all happen. I mean, confidentiality also should be protected, transparency should also be there. That is why I said that the disputing parties can find an appropriate balance. We can leave it on case by case basis, and to the disputing parties itself, they can carefully find this particular balance between confidentiality and transparency. Okay, so that is there. If we look at UNCITRAL guidelines on mediation in international investment disputes, the 2021, the one that we discussed about in the previous lecture, so that talks about, that guidelines, UNCITRAL guideline talks about the role of other parties, and in that role of other parties, they are talking about the possibility of states, that is not a disputing party, to participate in the mediation, as well as members of the community, local community, who are actually affected by the investment, and any other interested stakeholders. All of these can participate. So there is a, UNCITRAL guidelines had envisaged the possibility of participating third parties. Please note, we are talking about third parties not in terms of amicus curiae submission, right? So this is something else. So again, since mediation is a voluntary process, the disputing parties can decide who can participate, other than the disputing parties, and their role and to what extent they can participate. So voluntary process, the disputing parties itself can do it. But if that, if other parties are involved in the mediation process, that again increases the legitimacy of the settlement agreement. That is there, right? And there's one more challenge. One I mentioned was transparency. The other challenge that we see here is sometimes the host state may have certain inhibitions from immediately entering into mediation and arriving at a settlement agreement. For instance, look at Article 2045 of French Civil Code. Here, if the government wants to enter into any settlement, then it has to take prior authorization. So in that context, we can see it would be easier for the government to justify that we are paying this compensation because somebody has ordered us to pay, rather than saying we have had this dealing with the investor and then we are paying this amount to the investor. So that sort of may get the government in a bad light as well, may subject the government to many criticism as well. That possibility is there. Therefore, it is very important that the disputing parties, when they explore mediation for resolving the dispute, adequate amount of transparency and how they have arrived at a settlement agreement, that they have to clearly maintain. That is something, it has to be there. But should mediation be chosen as an option for resolving their dispute? I would suggest that the party should explore that. And I base this suggestion based on the statement made by Metalclad CEO. Remember Metalclad case, we discussed this in the 6th week of our course. That's the very first case that we discussed. So Metalclad, even when I discussed, I had criticized many aspects of the Metalclad award, right? So Metalclad award had garnered international attention. So many environmentalists had questioned or criticized this particular award. So Metalclad, in fact, sort of getting a reputation that they're not environmentally conscious and all of that. That perception started coming up because the award was drafted in such a way, it had certain disregard for environmental protection, right? So Metalclad CEO had stated that they regretted going for an adversarial arbitration and they would have rather explored an amicable settlement with the host state. So then in that case, we could see that, how if an investor wants to maintain a long-term relationship with the host state, then it's better to go for mediation, which would allow for a customized solution to their dispute, which will amicably resolve the dispute. And in that case, if at all certain challenges are taken into account, like transparency also, I stated that the disputing parties can bring in an appropriate balance between confidentiality and transparency, and if you allow other third parties and interested parties to take part, that also enhances the legitimacy. So if these things are taken care of, mediation can be a better way for resolving investment dispute that involves an environmental regulatory measure, especially when the investor has agreed or accepted or recognized the right of the host state to take environmental regulatory measure, only if the dispute revolves around compensation, right? Otherwise, if you go for an international investment arbitration, then what might happen? So you might see that, remember Marian Unglip versus Costa Rica case, the arbitrary tribunal may order Chorzo factory standard as the compensation, not the direct expropriation standard. That could also happen. That can effectively be taken care of in case of a mediation, because mediation allows you a leeway for certain bargain, right? So that could be taken care if mediation is chosen as the way for resolving investment disputes. So with that, we could say that mediation sort of addresses other drawbacks that we see in ISTS, the lack of coherency, unpredictability and all of those. One way to address it through mediation, the other way to address those is having an appellate mechanism. If you have an appellate mechanism, that would anyway contribute to stable and predictable framework, because when there's an appeal, if there is an some sort of an error, factual error or legal analysis error, that could be reversed. So that would give that sort of ensures that a stable jurisprudence is getting built, and that is something that we've seen in the context of post-establishment of World Trade Organization, post-appellate body. The stable jurisprudence had come up in contradiction to the GATT era dispute settlement system, right? So maybe with an appellate mechanism, we could also address the criticism that there is lack of predictability and stability with the way that the tribunal will approach the dispute. That could be taken care of. So that is something let us explore in more detail in the next lecture. Thank you.